Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be talking about game selection and win rates in this video, and more or less how to table select so that you can make your desired win rate. I'll just explain the background here. So I'm going through some coin poker tables, looking at the lobby. I'm finding tables like this, and this table seems to have 6 regs on it. Now this guy, could be a recreational. He has slightly higher VPIP than other players, but with coin poker tracking, these numbers aren't everything because they can be wrong. They can include things like heads up. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's still 36 VPIP regardless, so I wouldn't consider this as a player, like as a clear, big losing recreational player. Which I think is kind of crazy that these players are even sat on this table. And I'm going to ask you guys now in the introduction, can you guess in the comments which one of these players, if any, are profitable? Take a guess, because we're going to go through some tables and I'm going to explain win rates though. But first, I'm just going to go through like rake and win rates. Now, there is a very good video by Nacho Poker, which I'm going to get up. It is this video, dissecting win rates and table selection. This is an extremely good video, and I think some of these players need to watch it. Only 3.1k views. This should be watched by every player who plays online poker. Every player. Well, if you're a recreational, don't watch it, but if you'd like to play 50 VPIP. But if you're a serious player and you want to make money, then you should be watching this video. This is a brilliant video. And in it, he talks about like GG win rates. Here's a regular win rate of every regular over here, 0.5 BB. Let's just full screen it so it can be a bit bigger. This is a regular, this is with 0 fish on the table. These are filtered from, I guess it's probably from like his stable. So yeah, hopefully he doesn't mind that I'm using this information. This is with 1 fish on the table, 4.5 big blinds, 0 fish, -4. So the average regular is losing -4 without a fish on GG Rake. He's in VPIP 18 to 29. Now, CoinPoker has an ante, so people play a little bit higher VPIP. So that probably is actually going to generate a little bit more rake, but we won't talk about that. Well, it's probably more or less the same. And this is with 2 fish on the tables, up to 9 BB per 100. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer here. He's saying the majority of your win rate will come from exploiting recreational. Table selecting aggressively is pivotal for acquiring a high win rate, and that is simply the truth. I used to play on GG. I had a win rate of about 4 BB per 100 on 200 now. And yeah, I mean, that was all. I'm not saying I was like a special player or like much better than a lot of the other players. There are a lot of nits on GG, I have to say. That does help. But I wouldn't say I was any better. Like, I was an average player, in my opinion. But I was really disciplined with my table selection on 200 now, and there was plenty of games. So and I only got a 4 BB per 100 win rate. That tells you what the average the game is like, basically. But yeah, 2 plus fish on the table, 9 BB. And now we're going to be looking at these other charts. So this is the loss rate. You can see up to when you're playing like 90 BB on average, fish with 90 BB is going to lose over 150 BBs per 100. But like there are fish who play like 25, 10, 2. You know the type, 30, 10, whatever, 35 VPIP. So this is the guy that we're seeing on this table here. These guys might think is a fish. I don't personally think he's a fish, but this is their opinion. They would at best, if this guy is a losing player, he would be losing on average 25 BB per 100. But like people have to talk about like the rake impact. What is the rake impact on your BB per 100? Well, I can tell you it's going to be about 8.5 BB per 100 on 200 LGG before the jackpot fees. Now, when you add the jackpot fees, it's usually about another 2 BB per 100. So you're going to lose 10.5 BB per 100 on GG on 200 now. But if you want to figure it out, you can kind of just like take a sample of what you've played. So I'm just going to use GG as an example because the rake on GG and coin is actually the same effect. Let's just show you. By the way, I'm trying to find a rake on coin. It's supposed to be written down somewhere. I think it's just somewhere announced. I go through this entire article, explain what rake is, blah 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 blah. Does CoinPoker have rake? Yes, of course it has rake, but it's a 5% fee with caps based on each stakes and table size. Okay. Uh, where is it? Where's it going to tell me? Um, it doesn't tell you. Like maybe it's in here somewhere. It's not easy to find. So the only way I could find it is I Google search and I found this Gypsy Team article explaining the rate changes, and you can see that the cap um, was $3, so 1.5 BB. It's gone up to 3 BB. That brings it in line with GG rake. Of course, GG is pre-flop raked, but this is anti, so you kind of have to pay a little few more hands anyway. So I would say they kind of cancel each other out. You're kind of paying more or less the same rake. But yeah, if you want to look for whatever limits you're playing, it's kind of going to be relevant regardless. So feel free to take a look at that. If you want to kind of work it out on PT4, now I do have a custom filter that I use for BB per 100 that just does this calculation automatically. It's on my other computer, but like this is a GG sample that I played on my laptop because as you can, if you pay attention to my videos, in the background you can see it's slightly different. In fact, I've got my partner's headphones on. I had to borrow them. I'm definitely sticking to that reason to why I'm wearing them, not due to being confused in any way. But anyway, so this is how it's going to work. What you need to do is figure out how much your BB1 is. This is so much easier to do if you just add the stat, but you can obviously divide it if you feel like it. But yeah, your BB1, you just right click, export record, BB1. You get it. Here's my BB1, and then you just have to divide it by the number of hands. So if we just do this quickly, let's just 2209.18 divided by 15487. 0.1426, 1426. Obviously, you would multiply this by 100, you get this number. Yeah, that's it. So you can just do the same with your rake impact, right? You can see 264629. My rake contribution, because it's 200 now, it's really easy. We just have to divide this by. Yeah, obviously, you have to convert each big blind amount. So 200 now. $2 is per big blind, so you just kind of have to take the amount that we paid in rake and just divide it, by 2. But depending on what stake you are, it's going to be like a little bit harder to do. So this is how many BBs we paid in rake, and then we just do the same thing. We just divide it by the amount of hands that we played. You're going to probably want to need like a sample at least this big, sort of accurately get an idea of roughly what you're paying in rake. But you can see it's about 8.5, which is roughly what I expected it to be. And that's the impact on my rake, on the rake. So you can see even in this disastrous sample, if we paid 0 rake, we would have only lost that, I don't know, like 6 or something. Still pretty bad, actually. So yeah, that's the impact of rake on the game. Now you have to imagine each player is paying 8.5 BB per 100, including the fish. So when you look at a fish loss rate, there's going to be lots of sites out there like Smart Hand and stuff. I don't know if that even works anymore. Personally, I haven't used a site like that for a while. But yeah, you would see loss rates on there: 50 BB, 70 BB, 80 BB, 30 BB. You'll remember if a fish is losing 10 BB per 100 on a site like this, they're probably breaking even before the rake, which is probably a sign that they're relatively like okay. Like they're not making too many huge mistakes. They'll be making like small mistakes. Yeah, like we all make, obviously. But yeah, what does this mean for the win rates? Obviously, if every player is losing 8.5, but we saw an average with 2 fish on the table. The average win rate was still 9 BB per 100. That was including the rake on GG. What it means is what it means per win rate is which seat you're sitting on is also very important. I'll explain some of the technicalities. So like here's a recreational less than 30 VPIP. Thank you again, Nacho. So recreational here, regular is here. This is called the Jesus. This is called the second Jesus. These are just names. People have a bunch of different other names for them. Jesus, second Jesus, and then it's just like direct left, two to left, and I mean you could have a bunch of different names for this seat. This seat's actually quite interesting because it can be better than these seats, or it can be worse than these seats depending on the VPIP. And there's a reason why. And you're gonna figure out is like why certain seats are better than others. But the Jesus and the second Jesus are always going to be the best two seats. The Jesus is going to be the best seat. Second Jesus is going to be the other ones. But recreational with less than 30 views. So you're talking about a guy who's got playing 27, 10, 4. You know, even though they're losing, on average, they lose way less than others. There are going to be fish that play 27, 10, 4 that just like absolutely punt it off post flop, you know. But because they're playing so tight, on average their range is a little bit stronger. So like, they do a little bit better in certain spots. Whereas like 50 VPIP players, obviously they just have too much junk, which like bleeds their win rate. Some of them will punt it off, but for the most part, they're going to be like relatively like snug. They're not going to be losing that much, and you can see everyone here on this table is losing before Rakeback. Yeah, so what would that tell you about sitting at a table like this is you kind of need to have an appropriate level of Rakeback to even sit on the table. And we'll talk about Rakeback in a minute, but what we're going to look at now is we're going to skip forward to more than 50 VPIP, and you can just see how it jumps up. The regular here on the Jesus and second Jesus, they're both winning like 5. Even the guys on these seats here are like still winning, but they're not winning as much. So if you imagine this guy is like his loss rate, by the way, is like uh, on average this is going to be like what did it say it was? It was like pretty high. It was like average is over 50 VB. Average is like somewhere between 50 and 150. So maybe it's like 75 VB per 100 on average. Right? If we go back here, you can see the edges are quite small. Like if you were to count all of this loss rate up, it's like before these seats it's like 5, and then it's like 10, it's like 15 big blinds like before the rake, because the rest of it's going to the poker room. Do you see what I mean? So without including Rakeback, these aren't like huge edges. So if you play like a lot of games and you don't have high Rakeback and you're playing a lot of 30 VPIP recreationals and you're wondering why you're not getting a lot of good results, well, that's why. So yeah, this will bring me to the table that I started with, and I asked you guys at the start of the video which players do you think are winning and which players do you think are losing, and I haven't seen that before Rakeback, knowing that the rake per 100 is 8.5 big blinds. This guy's, even if this guy is a losing player, which I don't think he's like, if he is a losing player, he's not losing by that much. The answer to that is no one is winning before Rakeback on this table. They're all losing before Rakeback, all of them. Unless there's like one player that's just like insanely better than the others, but I don't think it's 200 now is hard to have a huge edge. Now I'm not talking about like how much of an edge you have on regs and other regs. This does impact your win rate. Like, if you play a lot, if there are a lot of good players on your table, or players that just like happen to like be able to perfectly counter exploit your standard strategy, I don't really know like how to describe it, but like if there are a lot of good players on your, if there are a lot of good regs on your table, it's going to affect your win rate more than if there's lots of tight nitty regs, which is why playing against nits is so nice. A lot of people are like, oh, I hate nits, blah 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 blah. They never bluff. Blah, blah. Nits are so easy to play against. You just don't pay them off. It's as simple as that. But the brilliant thing about playing against nits is like when you're playing against recreational players, you get away with more when you're playing against with nits than you would against like more solid regulars. Which is why them being on your table is really advantageous as long as you have one good recreational player that you're trying to exploit. And that is the kind of sort of lesson here: is if you're going to sit on a table, it doesn't matter how. Um, if you feel like you have an edge, you should sit on the table, but you need to understand if your edge is going to be bigger than the rake, and plus your rewards for Rakeback. And for some reason, all of these players seem to think that they have a big enough edge on somebody to play. I don't know what that edge is. I don't know who these guys, I don't think, I mean, I've spoken to a few of them possibly, like on the table, but I don't really know them that well. I don't know what edge that they think they have on the players on this table, but without the Rakeback or rewards, none of them are winning. So let's actually talk about rewards, because rewards and Rakeback is super important to being a grinder. Now, for the last 6 months, I focused mostly, until like very recently where I've decided to change, I focused a lot on just Rakeback grinding. Coin was very, very well suited for Rakeback grinding until it made its recent changes. Um, So yeah, I'll just talk a little bit. So you kind of need to understand how your rewards and promotions work. So if we take, let's just close this for a second. If we take this, your bonuses, if you sign up for Coin, you'll get a welcome bonus, which is going to help your rake back at the beginning. But obviously, I'm way beyond that at this point. And it's going to have guaranteed daily rewards, which I'll click here. It's going to have these coin rewards. It's going to have leaderboard races and splash pots. And 15% daily rewards. So you're going to get 15% regardless, and you're going to win some money on the coin races, and you're going to win some money from splash pots. So you kind of have to sort of figure out how does that affect your rake. What I would do here is I would try and figure out how much rake I pay on average per session. GG is going to be quite similar. You get these 2-hour leaderboard windows, which probably are the more optimal. If you're going to grind, maybe you grind 2 hours, take a break, then grind the next 2 hours, kind of thing, or like you grind it. But it takes a while to find tables, so maybe you should just play a 4 hour session straight. I think 4 is kind of my limit on like how much I would play a long session online. Overall, I'd rather play like 2, 3 hours, take a break, come back and play 3 hours. That's sort of how I would rather play online, because like after a while, your performance levels just massively drops when you get into that third hour, maybe fourth hour. I notice it a lot, so I try to break my sessions up a lot, so I just play better poker generally. But yeah, if you look at like this is my table sessions. I think my camera's slightly covering it, but was on GG. Yeah, sort of like an average 2-3 hour session. You know, you can see my average hands per hour. I mean, I could even divide it, but like because this is just me filtering for one stake, and when I'm mixing stakes, it's not going to be totally accurate. But if I'm playing like 6 tables, I'd probably expect to do about 500 hands per hour. So like something like this amount of rake, and you can see the rake that I paid in this session. I mean, it wasn't huge. I guess I swapped a lot of tables and played a lot of hands, but you can see the average session about this length is somewhere between $100 and $80. So maybe I would say maybe on average per session per 2 hours I pay about $100 when I'm 5-6 tabling. When I used to leaderboard grind per 4 hour session, I would pay $250. Yeah, the rake is kind of almost doubled basically. So I'd imagine like if you're 12 tabling for 4 hours, you probably pay about $450 to $500. Possibly 400 to 500. So something in that vicinity. Because I do half the hours, half the table. I don't expect to pay more than $100 to $125. All of these numbers are kind of boring. You could figure this out yourself, figure out how much rake you pay per session, figure out how to optimize your rake back, because it's very important actually in this environment because of how high the rake is. You can't just auto sit on tables, expect to win. But yeah, we have to explore like how much we get in rewards. You can see here, you can see the top players on these lists, the leaderboards. Shout out to Gazzy B. They're going to get quite a high amount of prizes. So, but like in order to get these prizes, these guys are going to have to massively multi-table. Like this guy, Stranger Things, he's probably playing 500 now. This is this is the mid race. They have like different like levels, by the way, for different stakes, but this is for the what they classify as the mid stakes. But yeah, when I play sort of my session, I average around. I sort of average around this sort of area, so I get somewhere between like 50, 60, 40 in the leaderboard prizes. You're gonna get 15% back anyway, which I guess we'll say is $15, and then you're gonna get some splash pots. This is just variance. You don't really know how much you're gonna get. Sometimes it's like $10 or $20. Sometimes it's higher, like if you get a mega splash. So on average, you're actually getting decent-ish rake back. I would say on average, you get around 60, maybe 66%, 60% to, I mean, a minimum 50%, somewhere between 50 and 70% based on my grind and how much volume I do. Somewhere between 50 and 70%. That is, I mean, you can figure that out. You just do 8.5, that's how much rake I pay. You divide that by 100, you times it by what you think. Let's just say 60%. So maybe about 5 BB. So I'm actually paying a net 3.5 BB per 100 in rake. So I get about 5 BB in rake back. So when I'm sitting on the table, I kind of have to account, okay, I'm going to get somewhere between 4 or 5 big blinds per 100 rake back. Maybe I should underestimate it so I don't like get too, so I table select well. So we could just say 4 BB per 100. So maybe we'll get 50% rake back or something like that. So then you sit on a table like this and you think, well, how much rake back am I getting? Now, if you look down on these leaderboards, you can see this guy who's on this table. Let's see who's on this table. This guy, Hisato, Cold Brew, Deep Sea, Perez, Cash Cow. This guy's in second, so this guy's expecting he's going to get a higher percentage rake back. You can see Deep Sea. This guy's clearly a rake back grinder, by the way. I don't know why people think he might be a recreational. Maybe they do. I don't know. Cold Brew. These guys are all up there. They're all grinding. There we go. Gio Pierres, Hisato. Did I get everyone? Cash Cow. Did I go over Cash Cow? He's probably on here somewhere. Maybe he's a bit low. Who cares? They're all going to get a little bit. Maybe they're going to get a little higher rate back than me. Maybe they're going to get 70. So maybe these guys are all paying 5, getting 6, 5 BB per 100 in rake back. But they're all not. But like the rake is 8.5 big blinds per 100. So the players who are actually winning here. I think this is quite very important to stress. On this table, the players who are winning here are the long term are the best players on the table. And it might only just be one guy, only one guy. So we have six people playing. Maybe some of them are getting 100% rake back, and I don't know. And they can tell me better than I can tell them because they understand their win rates, not me. But I would wager half these players don't make any money sitting on this table. They're all just losing to rake, all of them, or like at least half of them are. The best player on this table might be winning, but the variance is going to be massive because the edge is going to be very small, and this is what really gets me about seeing people just sitting here generating rake for coin poker, like not understanding that they're not winning. Like most of these players aren't winning. There has to be, in order for there to be winning players, it has to be players delusional enough to think that they're winning. So that could just be like fish who just think that the game is based on luck and they're gambling. It could be players that just like they know they're losing but just there to have fun. That makes the game profitable. Those are the best type of players because they know they're going to lose, but they're just having a laugh because it doesn't matter too much. The way it doesn't really get to bother them too much. But then there's always going to be some players that just think they're going to win, but they're not winning. I promise you now, at least half these players are not winning on this table. Probably more, maybe even all of them. And let's actually go and end this video by looking at tables and telling you whether I would sit on them. So we'll shut this down. We'll bring up the old coin lobby. We'll get this. We'll get this on the old full screen. Let's go see if what tables I would sit on. So let's look at a few empty ones. As always, a drink. So we have a heads up. So the heads up rake is a lot higher. I'm not going to comment too much about heads up. I don't personally play it. If you specialize in heads up, you can do so right away. Now, right away, we have this table. We have one of these 37 VPIP recreationals. So we know the average loss rate of this player is going to be around 20 to 30 big blinds. We're free-handed. Once I go four-handed, this guy's playing 36-26, by the way, but he's on this PC. But he's playing heads up, so probably that's why his VPIP's higher, if he's willing to sit and play heads up. Same with this guy, Alien 36. Just give him this tag. But yeah. So this guy, he's going to be losing maybe 20 to 30 BB on average, right? I would sit on this seat if I was playing. The reason I would sit on this seat is, okay, on his own, like, he doesn't lose enough, but with the rake back and the fact that we are in the second Jesus, I would be losing pre-rake back on this table. I'm not accounting for all the regs or anything like that, because all the regs look like reasonably average. Right? This guy's VPIP is a little bit tight for anti. He's got a lot of sample. I think this guy might be a little bit too tight for ante. But you know, pre-flop. But for the most part, I would sit like maybe this guy loses 25 BB per 100. You know, maybe our win rate. You know, in this seat, we saw the average win rate for a reg is like -2 from Jesus on the Nachos video. I think this guy maybe he less than 30 VPIPs. I think like our average win rate before Rakeback on this seat would be about 2, possibly 1.1 to 3, -3, -2, that sort of number. But with our 4 to 5 BB Rakeback, we're going to expect to win 1 to 2 BB per 100 hands. So we'll probably sit on this table. We could win maybe $2 to $5 per hour just sat on this table. Oh, this guy had been a short stack player, possibly recreational player, but like he's one of these less than 30 VPIP players. So again, this would make the table so much better. So if I was sat where Funkdog was sat right now, and this guy joined, expecting this guy, maybe he's like a 10 BB loser. So he's like a slightly losing player. Maybe this will put our expectation up a little bit on the table. Maybe we start off the Rakeback, we start to win like maybe 6 to 7, maybe to $8, $10 per hour on the table. Depends on like a lot of various factors, but like this is sort of in my head. This is the calculations I'm looking at when I'm looking at this table. Let's go look at a few more. This one's empty. Let's go look at a few full tables. Would I have sat on this table? Would I wait and list these tables? Okay, so I've brought up a few more tables here that we're going to see. Let's just shut a few of them down. I think some of these we've already looked at. But yeah, we're going to look at these tables. Let's just make my webcam a little bit smaller so you can see a little bit better about the players that are on the table. Now we're going to look at tables. We'll start with the top left here. So you see this guy, 73, 13.5. So this is a player where you just auto sit on the table. This guy looks really nitty, by the way. It's not a big sample. But yeah, this is a. You also sit on the table. It also has this other recreation on the table. Every single player on this table that is like playing somewhat reasonably well is going to be winning. Even this guy might be winning with this guy on the table. Like, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. But it's definitely like a really good spot for a reg. So any of these regs on this table, they're going to be expecting this guy with the Jesus on the whale. He gets to win here pretty guys. We saw like the average VPIP over 50, the average sort of reg in this bit was winning about 6 something BB per 100. If you include the Rakeback, this guy's probably expecting to win $20 per hour, maybe a bit more on this table. Possibly up to $25 an hour. So like in this seat, and in this seat maybe a bit like less, maybe like 17 to 22, $23 per hour. This guy has not the bet as good a seat. So like I think I would just explain like certain seats aren't as good. Obviously these guys get to isolate the whale as wide as you saw in the win rates, but certain other seats aren't as good. So if we were to like look at the Nachos video again, like if you look here, the 50 VPIP recreational, let's just make it bigger so you can see like this win rate is actually higher than this one. This is the worst. The reason these are okay is because like when you get to open into the blind for the recreational a lot, which is why this seat is like generally a lot better with the 50 VPIP player because you get to open into the recreational blind v blind. And also when they open, you get to play in the big blind multi-way for a bunch of people cold call because a lot of people want to cold call when a fish opens. Or even when they limp and people don't have like hands strong enough to ice it, you just get to play limp spots. So it's not that terrible. This one's kind of the same. This guy always gets to be on the button when he's in the big blind, which is really good bonus. But he has this guy behind him, which can be a problem because this guy gets the flat because this guy doesn't squeeze enough. The other thing is like when you're in this position and you are early position, the wreck is always going to be behind you. So if you just change your strategy, play a little bit tighter, you could maybe have a limp in range depending on the player. Just make a few adjustments, get rid of a few of those like 0 EV hands that gain EV only from stealing, like I don't know, King Jack offsuit, Ace 10 offsuit, these kind of hands probably don't perform super well. Ace 9 offsuit, I mean in the ante game, some of these like Ace 9 offs, King 10 offs, Queen Jack offs, but just pitch them. And just start like, I mean, because there's ante, you probably still have to open them anyway, but just in general, regular games, without the ante, just pitch those hands, just play like Bella hands, expect to go multi-way more, maybe open bigger size, try to get heads up with the fish as much as possible. This guy does the worst because, as you can see, when he opens, the fish is almost never in the blinds, apart from like when he's on the cutoff or the button. Um, and when he's on the button, the fish is like always opening, so he never gets to play in position that much versus the fish. The fish is always under the gun. Now, fish lack positional awareness, but on average, they still would play like 5 to 10% less hands from early position. So they have some positional awareness, but they lack how much position really impacts your game. They just kind of play hands that they like. Um, this guy just ends up in the worst of the world. He has all the regulars behind him. He doesn't get to isolate the fish as much. You know, he has to make decisions. He has to play like a lot tighter. He can obviously open wider into the recreational, but there's always these two guys knowing he's opening wider into the recreational. If say this guy's under the gun, the rec's here, he opens. You know, the rec calls. These guys get to come along. If he's cut off, the rec's in the big blind. He opens. These guys know he's opening wider into the fish's blind, so they get to free bet more. There's a lot of good reasons why this isn't as good a seat. So let's just go back to the coin tables. Yeah, great table here. This table, as you can see, I think is like very. It might even be the same table. It's very similar, top right. I wouldn't bother with it. Everyone is going to be losing, even with 5 BB, 6 BB per 100 rake. That's still not enough. The only way you're making money here is if you have like very clear edge on regs. You understand this reg has this leak, this reg has this leak. I can exploit them in this situation, exploit them in that situation. Maybe you win a couple of BBs per 100 post Rakeback because you have some edge on the regs that presumably exist, but you're going to be playing massive variance because you can play 500,000 hands with a 3 BB edge on a reg and you could still be losing. So the variance is going to be huge. Just don't bother playing these tables, like unless you're really really confident that you're crushing the games. Like I just wouldn't bother. This table you can see two recreationals, but they're both under 50 VPIP, but maybe this guy as well. I mean, he's playing broken stack, um, so like it's not like a good fish, but like I think this is probably still a good table for a reg to sit on. Like these players are going to all be losing somewhere between like 20 to 30, maybe this guy a bit more, maybe this guy a bit less. Generally, they're all going to be losing. Um, it does give you a good chance. I think this guy probably wins the most. But I would still sit on this table personally, even in the bad seats. I would expect to win. If I'm in this guy's seat, I would still with two fish on the table. The average reg was still winning like 9 BBs on average, so I would still expect to win like quite a lot of money on this table. Like I'd still expect to win like 20 to $25, $30 per hour. Um, on this per hour on this table, including Rakeback. So like if you're sat on like um, if you have four tables like this, you're actually going to win a decent amount of money. The problem is you don't get four tables like this. Sometimes you just have to sit on the tables like this. And you can see these tables are all empty because like some players have figured out this table's not worth playing, so they just left basically. And that's just what happens in poker. They're just like this table's not worth playing. You can see now there's a lot of open tables. So let's just look at a few more tables. Um, if I end it, say hello to Patrick again. Let's look at a few more tables. I should have probably left them open so we got to see them. I don't, but yeah, let's just open the first four tables here, and then also let's open some full tables after this. So like again, you can see all of these. Like this table, this guy has like the bad seats. So like remembering what we saw about the VPIPs, if you're actually on the 40 to VPIP range, this seat is actually better than this seat now. And it just sort of depends. It's just kind of like the VPIPs that they play because you get less steel equity. The seat becomes a little bit better when they're 40 to 50 VPIP. Okay, they're playing too many hands. They're not playing like complete trash as much, which means you get these guys have to like really be much more disciplined with their like opening, so they don't make EV from stealing. But because these guys aren't playing so many trashy hands, probably what happens is people actually make money opening their like ace 10 offs against 50, 60 VPIP players. But like against these players, they probably don't make money opening those kind of hands, so they do a little bit worse. So generally where this seat does a little bit fine. So what you find is the worst seat often gets left open here, which is, if we go back to this table, is what is happening with this guy. Like no one wants to sit on this table. Now these win rate seats are kind of similar. This is the best seat. This guy, 45 EB, probably losing 30 to 40 BBs on average. But like, I would not expect. It also depends on the regs on the table as well. But I would not expect like to be winning much because this guy, even though it says 46, 34, 18, you can see like he's like got a reasonable sample. This is a player you have to play really tight against. You just have to, if you're in the seat. So if I've sat here playing this, I have to play like my RFI has to go down like by like 5, 6, 7%. You're just not going to be able to properly open like a lot of hands. Queen nine suited, just these sort of hands. You just have to fold them. You have to start folding these hands. You can start limping maybe too because this goes way too aggro. But yeah, I wouldn't expect to win a huge amount of money in this one. As long as I make the right exploitative adjustments, I would expect to be winning post rakeback. So maybe I win like $10 an hour sitting on this seat, depending on the player. Possibly 5 to 15, depends on how good he is, how the other regs are. I expect to have some win rate. I would never sit on this table, even though this guy is 39.27. I think this guy played heads up. I'm not 100% sure, but I wouldn't really consider him as like a big losing fish. I don't know. So I would never like sit on this seat ever. I would expect just to be like losing, um, pretty much, unless I like even with the rake back. With the rake back, maybe I have like some kind of edge I can exploit with my sort of regular game, but on this side, I tend to not play with a hard. I tend to not play. I just make notes. When you have a hard, you can kind of like look more and exploit players a little bit more. But yes, this is exactly the same. I mean, 38, 39, I just wouldn't bother sitting. Maybe this guy is making money on this table, like with the rake back. Maybe he can make like $5 an hour. But everyone else I expect is just losing. Yeah, just bad. Like just bad tables, just generally bad. You just shouldn't really. Apart from that one table, you shouldn't really sit. Let's just look at some falls. So how would I recommend you waiting list? Say you find a table you want to play. Um, so like, would I wait list these tables? So this one, I wouldn't really bother too much with these tables because it's very unlikely the best seat is going to come out here. Oh, King Queen versus Ace Queen. How has that happened? Maybe this guy's a recreational, by the way. Mobile 26 2012 though. Quite curious. I'm kind of curious about that. You can see this guy is the guy that we thought maybe is like the big fish. This is the other thing. Is sometimes just because the guy has 45 people, it doesn't mean that they're actually even a big fish. The average loss rate is around 40 BB, but this guy could be. I'm still going to mark him, but this guy could be still be like not terribly incompetent. How did this guy like? He just pulled it off. He just pulled it off. So like, look at this. Like, this is a really good image. So this guy opens. He calls a 4-bet with king queen off. So this is like obviously a sign that like this guy's like not very good. In fact, you can even, uh, so I guess so there's a little sus. There's a little sus. Not gonna lie. But yeah, you get players like this, 33, possibly recreational, but like they're not. This guy looks pretty reggy. Um, but like on this table, generally, this is the only seat I would consider. I haven't seen that though. I might consider, and this guy being broken stack, I might consider sitting on this table in any seat. But like if I was sat here, I expect to win like $10 an hour kind of thing. Well, like I said, maybe 15, depending on like the rakeback level. But like I'm not expecting to win a huge amount off this guy. Probably even in the negatives. So like maybe $10. But with all the other potential weaker players, maybe I win a bit more, 10, 15 per hour on the table. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to find like 4, 5, 6 tables like this. Basically, if I could find the ones where I'm winning $20 an hour and I could get 6 of them and play them solidly for like my whole session, 2 hours. I'm making bank, but you don't get that. You don't get that because those tables don't last very long. They last 20 minutes, and the whale gets stacked and fucks off. So that's just it. Like this one, two fish, maybe these seats, great. If you can even get on the table, you're probably winning $20 an hour on the table, 25, and Jesus. Um, but these ones don't have as high a VPIP. Maybe post rake back, maybe you don't win as high. I don't know. This table again, I would just probably wouldn't sit on any of these free seats ever. I'd probably only ever sit on these, and I'd expect to be winning $5 an hour max. You know, same with these ones. You can see it's a lot of the same recreational players sort of in there. Which ones would I wait for? I would join this waiting list. I would join this waiting list. I wouldn't bother with these because the likelihood of me getting a good seat here is super low anyway. I'd need to get this seat anyway. But yeah, that's going to bring me to the end of the video. I hope you guys have like learned a little bit more about like game selecting, mastering your soft skills, because like what table you sit on really impacts your win rate on the game. Now, if you really hate this, you can just find the sites where you can like get really high rake back that you pay low rake on. So if you could find a way to get 90%, 100% rake back and just grind those sites like crazy. A lot of people do that, but let me tell you now, that's you're gonna have to grind a lot of volume to get that, make that work for you. And I know from experience, uh, this is generally going to be the best way. Yeah, that's the end of the video. I wish everyone the best of luck, and yeah, peace out. And oh, and this is a message for the regs: stop playing on terrible tables.